Welcome to the WiscWeb video training series. This is a training video series that's teaching you how to use the UW theme and WordPress together to build out your site. In this video, we're going to talk about creating content, specifically using pages and posts. So where we left off in the previous video was we were done using the customizer area to build out some of the things like your site title, your site icon, your footer, and talking about things like Google Analytics and Google Search and other settings and options that you can take advantage of. So in this video, we're starting back on the dashboard screen. And again, on the left side is where you're going to do most of your access of content creation and content delivery to your audience. So specifically in this video, we're going to talk about creating content using pages and using posts. So to access your page list, you would click on Pages on the left, and you would see your full list of pages here. Now, these pages are sorted by title, and you can also see who the creator was, what date they were published on. There are other ways of accessing various values up here at the top, such as drafts, pages that you have specifically created yourself. But to actually create a brand new page, you simply need to click on Add New. So I'm going to go ahead and collapse this menu over here on the left just to give myself all the room over here on the right side to see what it is that I am working on. So this is the page builder page. There is a lot of information that we're going to go over on this particular page in regards to what you see and what you can do for building out a new page. First thing that you're prompted for when you're building a new page out is a page title. Now, page title serves several purposes. First and foremost, when you click on a page, and again, I'm going to use the graduate school site as my example. When you click on a page, the page title is going to set the expectation of the content that's going to appear on that particular page. So if I click on something that says diversity, I expect to read about diversity on that page. And so you want to make sure that you're using good page titling, because you want to make sure that your audience, the users that are coming to your site, know what they're going to be getting when they land on a particular page. The page title also, similar to the site title, sets the value that you'll see up here at the top, which is the browser tab or browser window value. This again is important if you have users who have a number of tabs open and they need to get back to your particular page or your particular site. It's good to make sure that you are very pointed with your page titles there. And then lastly, the page title will also set the permalink or the URL value for your site. So this is something that will help you with search engine optimization as well. So you want to make sure that you are using good page titles, because these can potentially be keywords that people will search for if they are using a search engine, or if they're searching from wisc.edu, for example. So that being said, I'm just going to use a generic title. So just call it undergraduate admissions. So the next value down is the page layout section. So when you first create a page, the default layout that you are given is a one-column layout, and that one-column layout will automatically have a text block in it. So to give you an example of what a one-column layout looks like, this is our WiscWeb About Us page, and you can see this is what the one-column layout looks like right here. But if I go to our training page here, I'll show you, this is one of the two-column layouts right here. This is the 60-40, so 60% on the left, 40% on the right. And then if I scroll down just a bit, you can see this is the 50-50 layout. So there's also a 40-60. And these are just ways for you to change the default initial layout that you see when you are creating a page. You can also do this on the fly, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here, but this is just one way that you can change up the default layout that you see on your page. You can also collapse this if you don't want to see it. It will go away after you save your draft or publish for the first time. So the next visible value that you see below the page layouts is the upper content area. And the upper content area is defined as the hero area. And so if you want to add a hero image to the top of your page, you can click on the add hero image, or add upper content, I'm sorry, and then click on the hero image button that appears. And this dialog area will show up. And it'll give you some information about what the hero content should be used for. It'll give you information about what the size is, and I'll get into that in a little bit. And then just some of the other options that we're going to chat about. So the hero image is, if you go at our service site, if you go under features and hero content area, this is this big banner image that appears at the top of a page. And so this is the single image only. The hero image can also have a headline or a caption in it for your audience to read. That caption or that headline area can have a link in it, so you can have something linked to from the hero area. And then lastly, there's this option right here, which is the featured content inset. It's this sort of text block within the image, and that can also have another image within it. So you can kind of see some of the cascading layout options right there. So as you can see, this is a very large image that goes into the hero area. The minimum requirements, or the requirements, I suppose, the minimum size that you want to have for a hero image is 1600 pixels wide by 500 pixels high. And it's very important to make sure that you're aware of the width of your image, because a lot of times when new sites are being built within specifically the WiscWeb service, users will come in with images that are large, but they're not quite 1600 pixels wide. And the moment you put an image in here that is not 1600 pixels wide, it's going to stretch that image to make it fit that 1600 pixels width. But then as it's stretching it this way, it's also going to stretch it vertically. And so suddenly this hero area will stretch from being right here to being further down. And that'll do a couple of things. One, it's obviously going to increase the scrolling that appears, but also it's going to affect the quality of that image, and that image is not going to look as good or as sharp as you want it to. It's going to look a little more blurry. It's going to look a little more pixelated. So it's not going to be as quality of an image as you would hope to have up there in your banner image. So you want to make sure that you're choosing large images to start with, so that you can manipulate them a little bit more down to that 1600 pixels wide by 500 pixels high values. So back on over to my edit area, I'm going to click on add image, and I'm going to choose one of these images that I have in here. I'm going to go with this one right here. You can see that this image is actually larger than that 1600 pixels wide by 500 pixels high. So what's going to happen is the theme is going to center the image and then crop it automatically top and bottom to meet that 500 pixels high. So in this case, if you have an image that is larger than that minimum requirement, the theme is going to do some things automatically to it to make sure that it fits into that space there. So again, you just need to be aware of the fact that the image is going to do some things that maybe you didn't intend for it to do. And so you might want to edit these images externally using another image editing program before you upload them to your media library. Another thing to note out of the hero selector, and this is going to be true for any images that you're going to be putting on your website, is making sure that you are applying alt text or alternative text to your images. And this has to do with web accessibility. This is a way for software such as screen readers to be able to read content to someone who potentially cannot see the images on your site. And so the alt text is meant to be something that is descriptive, letting them know about what the content of the image is or what the purpose of the content is in relation to the rest of your site or the rest of this particular page. So it doesn't need to be a 20-word caption. It can be as simple as 6 words, but it has to relay the content or the purpose to an audience member who might not be able to see it. So in this case, I'm going to keep it pretty simple and just say Lincoln statue on or in front of Bascom Hall. And that will explain what is happening in this image. So once I have that set, my image is selected, my alt text is set, I can click select in the lower right. And we'll get a little preview of what it's going to look like right here, but I would rather see it in all of its glory. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll up to the top, and over here on the right side you have your publish options. So I'm not yet ready to publish this to make it live for my audience because I'm building it. So what I can do is I can click Save Draft. It will save this particular draft right here, and then I can click Preview. And so Preview will now show me what my page will look like as of this moment. And so you can see here's all the things we worked on in the first video. If I scroll on down to the bottom, there's some of the things that we were chatting about, the footer area. But then here's the hero image, and you can kind of see it's centered up on the statue of Abraham Lincoln, and then the top of Bascom Hall was cropped out, and then the bottom of the Lincoln statue was also cropped out. But the image is still good because it still carries the weight, and it's a good quality image still. So I'm not too concerned with what happened with the crop. But if I thought that maybe the Lincoln statue needed to be more of the focal point than perhaps Bascom Hall, I might want to take this into an image editing program and do some of that cropping on my own. We can talk about that in a later video, kind of go through some of the options that you might have to edit some images down to make them more optimized and more useful for websites. So I'm going to leave my preview tab open because I'm going to bounce back and forth between these two, saving over here and refreshing over here to see what updates I have made. But that's the single image value, and that's pretty straightforward there. The next option in the hero layout section is the headline area. And so when I click on this, you'll see a few more options appear. There's the headline text, which is just our caption that we want to appear. There's the ability to add a link, and we'll get into that in a second as well. And there's also this option for autofill inset from an existing page or post. So this one is an important one because it introduces a small part of what the image or what the hero area can do, but it actually leads into a larger conversation that users need to be aware of. So if I wanted to link to an existing page or post that I had created within my site, I could click on this slider, and I can choose from this drop down one of those pages or posts that I have created. So for example, if I want to link to the sample page, I can choose that. However, what you'll notice is you do not get the option to set what the headline text is. And that's because the headline text is now going to be automatically populated from a value called the excerpt on this particular page right here. And so the excerpt's important because it's something that is automatically defined by WordPress when you save a draft or when you publish a page, but it needs to be manually updated as you are working on it. So to sort of give you an idea here, I'm just going to go down here and type in some gibberish. Okay, and so I will go up and I will save my draft, and we'll scroll down and you'll see there's my gibberish. It's very silly, and if I keep on scrolling down, here's that excerpt field. And you'll see it automatically populated to my gibberish. But if I go up here and I, again, go into my text block and I type in some very important text, serious stuff, and I again go up and I click my Save Draft, there's my important text that I finally updated. I'm done tinkering. I'm now adding my real content to it, except the excerpt remains the gibberish that I typed in at the very beginning. And so this is just something that you as a content creator or content editor need to be aware of, in the fact that the excerpt is meant to be a summary of the content of the page or the post that you are creating. And it's really meant to just be a quick introduction to what a person should expect to read. And the importance of this is also something that is picked up by search engines. So this value is what will be returned when people are doing searches for your site at a search engine or at WiscWeb.edu. So that's why it's important to make sure that you are aware of what this excerpt says, because you don't want it to not properly represent what the actual content of your site is going to be. So make sure that you're aware of that, and make sure that you are attending to that when you are building out your pages. Or, also important is if you are going to be updating content on a page and the content changes slightly or the message changes slightly, you want to make sure that you are attending to the excerpt as well, because you want to make sure that it is updating to appropriately capture what the new content is on the page. So again, a slight segue from just a small opportunity to link to something internally to a larger conversation about what the excerpt field is meant for. So I'm going to go back up and I'm actually going to click off this slider because I'm just going to type in some very cool headline text. This is The Good Life. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on the slider for adding a link. And it's going to present you with two other options. The first option is the link title or call to action. This is basically what do you want people to be able to click on to follow the link that you are creating for them. So click here to visit UW-Madison's homepage. And down here, you have to make sure that you put in the full URL, the full https:// or http://, and then the full URL. Otherwise, it will not accept it as a valid URL, and you'll get a little error message when you try to publish this page. So, but I have my values in there. I can go on up and click Save. Nope, sorry. Click Save Draft. And then again, click Preview, and it will pop me back over to here. And this is what it looks like. So you can see there's my headline text right there. There's the link that I can click on right there, and you'll see it will take me to wisc.edu. So that's pretty straightforward. There's nothing too overwhelming about that option. So I'm going to click back over to the edit area, and one last time click on a radio option in the hero layout section, which is the featured content inset. And so what you'll see now is the ability to add a further image, that inset image that we talked about earlier. And actually, if we go over to the grad school one, we can kind of see what an example would look like without an image in it. It will just have this white block in there with the red line and the red bottom border there, and then the text would be in there as well. And again, you could create a link in there if you so desired. So again, and then I will add an image of these students here, and again, alt text. Students flashing the Wisconsin W. Click select, and there we'll see what my inset image looks like. My link stays because it was already set in the previous option, but I'm going to go ahead and scroll up and click Save Draft. And again, click Preview. And there we'll see. There's my inset image. There's the text. There's the link. I might want to clean this link up a little bit just because I'm not particularly fond of the wrap that happens there. I might just say visit UW-Madison or something like that just to tighten that up a little bit. But this is what it looks like when you use the featured content inset. So this is a single image. You can add that slider effect, that carousel effect, if you so desire. You do that by going to the bottom of your first hero image and clicking on the blue Add Image Carousel button. A second hero area selector appears, and you essentially just do the same steps that we just talked about, which is you click on Add Image, you choose an image. Tuba's playing at a UW football game, and then click Select. I'm going to leave it as image only. Again, go ahead and click Save Draft and click Preview, and you'll see we'll get the little sliders here on the left and right, and that'll allow me to click through those. Now, a couple of notes about the carousel effect. One is the theme does not allow it to automatically process. It is a manual selector for you to switch between the slides. The link itself opens within the window that it is clicked in. It does not open in a new window or new tab. These are both accessibility, both mobile and user accessibility options, so just be aware of that. And then if I click back on over to here, I'm gonna scroll way out, so this will look a little weird in the video, but I do want you to be able to see more of my screen as I'm doing this. So over on the far left, there is a numbered column there, and if I mouse over it, you can see I get the four-way cursor there. You can drag and drop your hero images to reorder them to, specify what order you want them to appear when users visit your site. So I only have 2 images. Doesn't really matter which one is first to me, but I just want you to be aware of the fact that you can reorder them as you see fit. If you don't care which image appears first, you can also click this randomize the slide order checkbox at the very top of the hero area, and that'll just randomize whichever image it is that appears first when a person visits your site. So you do have that option as well. And then over here on the right side, you have this minus sign. This is how you can remove hero images if you so desire. Sort of a best practice, don't overuse your hero images. You don't want people spending a lot of time sitting at the top of your page clicking through image after image after image after image. The content on the page should be what's most important, not what is appearing up here at the top. So try not to overuse the hero area. It's something nice to use if you have images that will help support the content that's on the page, or if you're using a hero area on your homepage, it's something that helps support the content of the site. But otherwise, a hero area isn't a requirement, and at times it can be a bit distracting from the actual content of the page or of the site. So, make good choices when you're using your hero area. Make sure that it's something that's going to support the content that you want your audience to consume there. So that's it for the hero area. I'm going to scroll up to the top, and you can collapse this by clicking on the little collapse toggle right there. I'll get rid of that, and we'll scroll down and we'll get into the actual text itself. So again, the default is a 1-column layout with a text block already in it. You can type in all of your various text that you want to have show up there. I'm going to go and grab just some placeholder text just so we have something there. So I'll put in all of that, expand this down a little bit so you can kind of see there's my text area there. So couple of things about what you see here. There are some buttons that will appear up here based on whether or not you have certain plugins active. I have the plugin that we use within WiscWeb called Gravity Forms. That is what this button does here. This is my add media button. We'll get to this in a minute here about how do you add images, how do you add links to documents and things like that. But then we'll go through what these various formatting options are right here. So the first one, this first drop-down selector, is sort of like a style selector. You can see that it defaults to paragraph. Paragraph is the default text tag or text style when you are typing in a text block. You also have the options for headings 2 through heading 6. And what you'll see is you only do see heading 2 through heading 6, and that's because heading 1 is reserved within the theme for page titles. So a page title is always going to be heading 1, and then heading 2 is going to be used for additional titles of elements on the page, and then you within the text block can also use those H2, H3, and so on tags there. Be aware of the fact that this can also cause some accessibility issues if you are nesting heading values in sort of an awkward way. So, for example, if you have a section head that you want to start with heading 2 and then you want to go to heading 3 for a subsection item, and then once you're done with that subsection and you're done with the section in general, you might want to bounce back out and use heading 2. You don't want to start with like a heading 4, then go to a heading 3, then maybe go to a heading 5, bounce out to a heading 2. Try to keep it consistent so that it's easy for audiences who are using screen readers to easily tab through content, finding those particular H tags. And also from a visual audience, you create that sort of expectation of how you're going to lay a page out. You think of it like a term paper or a research paper where, your heading 2 is the start of a topic area, the start of a section. You use heading 3s to kind of set up those subsections. And then once you're done with all that, you bounce back out to heading 2 to create the next section there. So you create a nice visual layout for your audience as well, so they can get accustomed to the way that you're sort of laying out your content as they see it. Next to that, we have the general icons of bold, italics, a bulleted list, and a numbered list. This quotation mark icon right here, this icon has to do with a block quote tag. This is, if I go ahead and just pull this or highlight this particular block of text here, and I click on that block quote tag, you'll see nothing significant happens here. It just sort of indents the text there for you. But if I go ahead and save this draft, what you'll see when it lands on page, click preview now, is it does apply a nice bit of style to it. And so the block quote tag is really meant to call out and emphasize, bring attention to a particular section of text or block of text that you really want to call out to your audience. So it is nice for that purpose. However, try not to overuse it because it's meant to call attention to something specific. And if you start to overuse it, it's hard to specify what is the most important thing that you're trying to bring attention to your audience, as well as just a user experience thing with it's all italics, and you don't want your audience reading pages that are just littered with italic text. It's going to wear on the eyes. It's not going to be a very good user experience. So you want to make sure that you are using it infrequently so that when you do, it really does carry some of the weight that you want it to. Back over to the Edit tab. Moving on from there, you have the options for alignment, align left, center, and right. We have an insert or edit link icon here. We'll get to that in a second here. The insert read more tag. This is a tag that is in base WordPress. However, within the UW theme, it does not have any use, so this does not do anything there, but just be aware of the fact that it is there because it is part of base WordPress text areas there. The next icon over, the full screen, this just sort of gets rid of everything on the page and just shows you the text editor. It is a toggle, so once you're done just seeing the text editor and doing whatever text editing you need to, you click it off to get back to this particular view. This next icon over, the toolbar toggle. So when you first load your WordPress page editing page, this will be off by default, but you can toggle it on by clicking on this, and it then shows this second row of icons down here, and we'll get into these in a second. But this is a toggle that you can turn on, and once you do it once, it will be on for you all the time. So it sort of it remembers it for your particular user for you in the future. The next two icons over have to do with a plugin that is specific to the WiscWeb service, and this plugin is called WP Data Tables. And what WP Data Tables does is it allows you to take content from a specific source such as Excel or Google Sheets and lay it out in a sort of web-friendly table like this. So it's nice to use when you have some sort of tabular data that you want to display to your audience. You can import it into your site, use WP Data Tables to then build out a page or build out a table that you can put on a page. And then also you can take that data table that you create and based off of that table, build a data chart as well. So WP Data Tables is very useful. It's very powerful, but it does have a bit of a learning curve. So again, that's one of those things where we would recommend, if you want to learn more about it, contact us or drop into one of our open labs to meet with us to learn a little bit more about it. The next row of icons down, you have the strike through option. You have the horizontal line, which is just the bar that goes across a page. You have the option for paste as text, and this is a toggle, and this is an important one because of the fact that a lot of times when you're first creating content or when you're first delivering content to your audience, it is going to likely be pulled from maybe an existing source such as another web page or from, say, a Word document or a text document or something like that. When you copy and paste that into a web text editor, a lot of times there is style that might show up behind the scenes that you didn't intend to bring over. So things like color changes, link decorations, background colors, actual font faces, the font styles that you'll see, those types of things will get also pasted in accidentally. And the reason why you want to use this paste as text option, if you toggle it on and then paste things in, is it will strip out all of that additional style that happens. And that way you can make sure that anything that you're putting onto your page isn't going to clash with the UW theme itself, first and foremost. Secondly, also very important, some of those things that you might be pasting in might create some accessibility or user experience issues that you don't want to create for your audience. So you just want to make sure that you're just using that paste as text option to not create some issues for yourself in the long run. So that's just a toggle that you toggle it on, paste in your text, toggle it off, you're good to go. The next icon over is a clear formatting. And so clear formatting is a different option than paste as text, because clear formatting, what it does is it will clear out any formatting that you do within the text editor proper. It cannot clear out anything that you paste in, because that stuff is not a part of the history of the text editor. It's just there suddenly. So this wouldn't work for things that you paste in. But any editing that you do within it, any formatting that you do within the text editor proper, this will clear out. So for example, if I bold, underline, and italicize that text right there, I can select it, hit the clear formatting, and it will strip all that out. So just be aware of that. This next icon over, this omega character, it is a special character pop-up, and you'll see that it just kind of gives you options of a number of different special characters that you might want to use for whatever means you need to use them for. So you click close to get out of there. Next to that, we have your indent options, and then your undo and your redo. So those are pretty straightforward there. So primarily the two, aside from just putting in text, the two biggest things that a user is going to want to do within a text block is creating links, and then also creating or adding images to your pages. So the first thing to talk about is how do you create a link. So with creating a link, the first thing you need to do is highlight the text that you want to be the linked text, the anchored text, and then click on the insert or edit link icon. So with this, it will give you this little pop-up, and it will actually tell you what to do within that little pop-up there. Paste in the URL or type to search. So I know what URL I want to type in, so I'll just type in the URL for wisc.edu. And this would create an external link because I'm linking to something using the full URL right there. But if I wanted it to be an internal link, I could type in a keyword to search. So for example, if I just type in the word blog, you'll notice that even though blog is not in either of these titles, the word does appear on both of these pieces of content. And so therefore, it will find them based on that particular keyword. Now, once I have that set, I can click on the link there, and that will put that value in there. And then I could either hit enter or click the blue apply button. However, I do want to show you this one right here, which is the link options icon. If you click that, you'll get a few other options to be aware of. First is the ability to change the URL on the fly. Then you can also edit the link text if you so desire. There is the ability to search, and then this search will search through all of the content that exists within your site. And this will populate with all pages, all posts, faculty staff members, events, things of that nature that you create will be listed down here, and you'll be able to actually find them using this search function. So last thing that you see here, and why we'll save it for last, is the checkbox for open link in a new tab. You are probably very familiar with this option, but if you click on open link in a new tab, what happens is when somebody clicks on this link, it will open a brand new browser tab or a brand new browser window. Those values are set by default those values are set by the browser of the user, not by you. So you can say open link in a new tab, but the individual browser might treat those links differently based on the user's settings. Now, the reason why this is not default and the reason why it is an option that you have to click on is because this could create an accessibility issue for you by opening things in new tabs and by moving the focus of your browser away from your site. Again, that's a user setting on the individual browsers, and if a person is not expecting new windows to be opening, you might confuse them, lose them, not give them the best user experience there when if you keep them within the window proper, they have the ability to hit the back button. It's not going to surprise them when they click on a link and it takes them to a new page or a new post, or I'm sorry, a new page or a new URL. So this is something that is not recommended to use. However, it is an option that does appear because there are some use cases where opening links in new tabs is acceptable. If you are going to find yourself opening things in new tabs, you will want to make sure that you identify that something is going to happen to your audience. This link will open in a new window. That way you're letting them know that something's going to happen when you are putting that in there. So that's how you create links both internally and externally to sites or pages. The other option that you need to be aware of is how do you create links to documents? And the reason why we talk about this in a separate thought is because you have to make sure that you are adding these documents to your media library before you are trying to place a link onto your page right here. So for this purpose, I'm going to put my cursor right where I want that link to appear. I'm going to click on Add Media. This will give me my full media library. You'll see that I do have access to now a few sample documents. And what you need to be aware of is when you're going to link to a document out of your media library, you will want to make sure that you update the title field to be the linked text that you want to appear. So in this case, maybe I need this to say undergraduate application form. And once I have that set, I can click Insert into Page, and that is what appears right there. So that's how you set what that linked text is going to be. Now, this works great when it's on its own line. However, a lot of times you're going to be linking to things out of the middle of a sentence. So I'm going to do the same thing here, put my cursor where I want it to be, click on Add Media, choose, not Kermit, choose the document that you want to appear, and then click on Insert into Page. But that's not really what I want it to say there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that link, click the Edit icon right here at the lower right, and then go into the link options. So now I can change this on the fly to download the required application here. And then click Update. And there you'll see that is what will happen. So one of the things you need to be aware of, again, from a user experience and accessibility standpoint, is when you are creating links to items, either to external or internal pages, or to documents specifically, you want to avoid just typing in click here as your link. Click here, click here, click here. This is not a very good user experience for folks who are using screen readers when they are trying to find various links on a page. And if every link says click here, click here, click here, it's something to just be aware of when you're creating your links. So you want to be descriptive and to the point with what your links are going to say, and that will help your audience find them easier. Also they do help with your search engine optimization when you are specifying what types of things people might be trying to click on. Those are things that people might search for as well. So just be aware of that. Another thing to be aware of is the fact that the WordPress media library does not handle versioning very well. You can upload a file that has the same file name as one that's already in the media library. WordPress will not replace that item. It will simply add a new file and give it the same file name -1 in there. And so one of the things that you will have to be aware of is the fact that either you'll have to go back through and update these links to point to whatever the new document is, or another recommendation is to use an external file directory such as Box or Google Drive or somewhere where you can link to documents that do handle versioning a little bit well and a little bit better. And then you can just go through the process of using this link right here. And so if you're using the link option right here, it will always point to whatever the file is that you're trying to have them download. And in most cases, file management systems like Box, it will always point towards the most recent version of that particular file. So it's an option to think of when you are building out your pages and when you are creating content for your audience. So the other thing that you can do within a page is you can add images. So again, similar to what we talked about with links, you put your cursor where you want that image to appear. You again click on Add Media, and then you can choose an image to put on your page. So few options to chat about over here on the right side. The first one is the alt text. Again, you just want to make sure that you're describing what this image is to an audience member who might not be able to see it. The title value is important because this would help you find images within your media library as your media library begins to grow. So if I wanted to find all of the images that had BASC in them, B-A-S-C, I could just type that in, and because of the way that these are titled, it is limiting what I see, but I'm finding exactly what it is that I'm looking for. So you want to make sure that you're using good titling within your media items. A caption can appear beneath the image if you want it to. You can edit this down if you want. You can add more. You can change it up. Just be aware of the fact that you can delete it out as well if you don't want the caption to appear there. Below that, you have the description field. Every media item that you upload to your media library will have an additional page or post area created for it, and you can use this description field to add, I guess, some further search engine optimization text in here just to kind of describe it. And I'll just type that in there. Here's the link as well. Below that, this is specific to WiscWeb, but we do have a plugin that allows you to replace the media. It does take a little bit of awareness of how to use it. There are some options that you have to make sure that you click on appropriately to update the media item, but we do have that option. Below that, you have some display setting values. The first is the alignment option. How do you want this image to float in relation to the text on the page? So left, center, right, none. You can stick with left and right if you want the image to float next to the text. You also have the ability to link this image to other sources. So for example, you can link to the media file proper. You can link to the attachment page. The attachment page is that extra page that is created when you upload a media item. And then lastly, you can link to a custom URL, which is if you wanted to link to this image to some other site or some other page. And then lastly, there's a size option. When you upload an image to your WordPress media library, it will create additional images that you can choose from. And it's important to be aware of this because when you are using the full size of an image on a page, it not only loads the full dimensions, it still is a mobile-friendly image, but it also loads the full size of the image. And the larger the images are that you put on a page, the longer those load times are going to become for those particular pages. So that's why this size option is important, is because you want to make sure that you're choosing, optimized images for your pages so that one, it maintains the quality of the image, but also two, it doesn't affect the load time for your audience. So I have my value set. I can click Insert into Page. I'll just expand this a bit so we can see it. And then you'll see there's the image right there. There's the caption. I'll get rid of that caption out of here proper just so I don't have to worry about it. You can click on the image to get some more image editing options. You can drag it, if your browser allows it, to where you want it to be. So you can see me breaking this this text up a little bit. There we go. So I just want it to float right there to the left of this text block here, or I could set it to, right, and have it float to the right. So to kind of take a look at what this looks like on page, I'll click Save Draft again, click Preview, and there you'll see. Didn't take my align left. There we go. So there's the image right there. So that's it for images. A couple other options in the page builder page. If you click on the Apply UW Box Style checkbox, this is a style formatting option that you can choose. This is what your text block will look like by default. But if you apply the UW box style, and I'll click Save Draft, and then I'll click Preview, this is what it will apply. So it's just a way for you to change up the way that the text block itself is appearing. So you know, it's a choice to make. If you have a lot of text on a page, you might want to use the Apply UW box style on a couple of different text blocks to just change it up a little bit for your audience, so it's not just one long wall of text. Below that, to the right, you have the Add Page Element option, and what this does is it allows you to add additional means of delivering content to your audience. So for example, if you wanted to use an accordion panel, or the text block, or tab groups, or if you created faculty staff members, you could use the faculty staff listing. So those are just some options there to choose from on the fly if you so desire. Below that, the Add Content Layout. This is how you can add your 1, 2, or 3 column layouts on the fly. Again, if I click 2, I'll get this option for the Add Page Element. I can add a text block here on the left. And then on the right side, I could say add an image. There's that. So there's lots of options with the content layout. You can stack these layouts. These layouts are reorderable, so you can reorder them by dragging and dropping. I'll leave that as is. All right. And then below that, you have a lower content section. The lower content section just allows you to add essentially a hero image at the bottom of a page. So you know, you can add that if you want to. Just be aware that it is adding a large image at the bottom of the page, which could increase scrolling on that page. You know, just some things to be aware of when you're building out your site and when you're thinking about the user experience for your audience. Below that, your excerpt field there. But if I scroll all the way up to the top, one of the things that you'll notice is this Screen Options window shade. And something that you should be aware of is that the excerpt field is toggled on or off. And so if you don't see your excerpt field on your page builder, you can go up to the Screen Options area and turn it on by clicking up here. So just be aware of the fact that you can add or remove things from a page builder page by clicking on the Screen Options and then clicking in the checkbox as needed. Below that, we've already been talking about the publish options. We've been talking about Save Draft and Preview specifically. It's not yet live for my audience to see. When I am ready for my audience, or when I'm ready to use this page for my audience, I can click on Publish down here at the lower right. And so now what you'll see is the change that happens is I no longer get the option to save draft. I only get a Preview Changes option, and I have the option now to update. Essentially what this means is when you need to edit this, you're editing it in place. So any changes that you make, you have to commit them by clicking on the update button. You can make liberal use of the preview changes as you are building out this particular, or as you're updating this particular page, but there is no save option. You either have to commit or come back at another time and then commit when you get to there. If you happen to make any mistakes, you can click on your revisions browse button and you can go back in time to undo any, mistakes, any significant mistakes that you make to your page. You can then restore that particular revision at that date and time. There's the ability to move something to trash. You can delete it, essentially. That will move it to the trash area within the Pages selector. It is not gone entirely from your site. It is just simply deleted and removed from the view of your audience. You have the ability to restore it or delete it permanently from the trash area. And then the last option specifically to talk about in this video is the duplicate this. So we have a plugin that is an option for you to take a page that you have created and maybe you like the layout and you want to create a consistent layout throughout your site. You might want to duplicate it by clicking on duplicate this. And what it does is it will create an identical draft of that particular page. So if I click on this, now that it's a draft, there are a few things that I would need to do. I would first and foremost need to update the page title. That's pretty obvious. So instead of undergraduate admissions, maybe I want it to be graduate admissions. I would also need to update the content. It's a new page. It's new content. You need to go down and remove things that aren't specific to this page and make sure you add those. And then lastly, what you'll notice is the permalink value is set as this. So you can edit this permalink value if you need to by clicking on the edit button, and I need it to say graduate, and I need to get rid of this -2. Notice the format, it is all lowercase with hyphens instead of spaces. Make sure you follow that format. Then click OK. This looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and click publish. And that's how you can quickly duplicate content layouts that you have already done within your site. So that's how you create pages. Again, pages are the primary way that you're going to deliver content to your audiences. There are more things to talk about when building pages, but this is just the basics of how do you start building out your site and how do you start building out those content pages. So we'll be back in a second here to start talking about posts specifically. I just need to get some things set up on my side. Okay, so with pages, that's what you're used to when you're building out a site that is going to have actual landing locations when people click on things and when people go to see that content that you're delivering to them. Posts is another way for you to deliver content, and posts have to do with I would say the traditional use of WordPress, which is sort of like a blogging, a posting platform. So when you think of posts, think of blogs, think of news, think of announcements, think of those types of things when you're talking about posts. And with the UW theme and with WordPress, to access those posts, you would click on Posts here on the left. Similar to a page, we would click Add New to create a new page. And we'll see some similar things that we have seen with our page builder, although with the posts, you only get access to a text block. You do not get access to the other page elements, and that's because posts are really just meant to be straight text, maybe images in them, something of that nature, but they're not supposed to have the depth and flexibility that a full page is supposed to have. So, let's talk about, let's see. Let's say undergraduate admissions forms are due soon. So we'll just say, we'll let people know that, these admission forms are due soon. And then I can go down here and I can just type in some text. Be sure to hand in your forms. So that would be it. I could publish it, and this would be a post, and it would go into my site wherever I decide to have it appear. So there are a couple of options that are significant for your use of posts within your site. So the first one is this news link section. The news link section is something that you can use to perhaps pull in content from an external source. So for this example, okay, not sure why it's showing that. So let's go to here. And we'll go to news.wis.edu. And let's say, for example, this is big news here, Wisconsin going to the Rose Bowl. I can grab this URL. I can go to the news links section there, and there's that. I can click Save Draft, and I can click on Preview. And so what happens when I click on Preview is you'll see that the theme is automatically pulling two things from that source. One is it's pulling the title automatically, and it's also pulling the excerpt to my particular page. And then the news link section also creates the link to the full article here. So this is a nice way if your audience is used to coming to you for their information, coming to your site for their information, and you may want to make them aware of some things that you perhaps find interesting, find useful, find important that they should be aware of. You can use the news link section to sort of create content for your site by just basically copying and pasting. Couple things to be aware of here, though. One, you do not obviously get the ability to edit this text. It automatically populates there. And two, if you're going to do this, you may want to update your post title to match the post title that you are linking to, or the page title, or whatever the content title is that you are linking to, because of the fact that you want it to be good search engine optimization, or you want it to have good searchability on your site, as well as capturing what the actual true title is of the content that you're linking to. So you want to make sure that you're just sort of following that rule there. Now, this isn't always true, so you do have to do some testing out. Sometimes external sites will not populate that information there. So if I put that lorem 2 in there and click Save Draft and Preview, so you'll see it's not doing what I would want it to do either. I may want to make some different choices there as well, because this doesn't tell me anything. So I may want to just take this out of here, put some information in here, and then just link to it straight out of the text block here. So you have some options that you need to be aware of, just because of the fact that it's not always going to be what you expect up here. Works great sometimes, doesn't work as expected other times. So make sure that you're really testing it out to see if it's actually going to do what you expect it to do there. So that's the news link section, just to be aware of that. Let me just go and grab this just to make sure it looks right. So the other thing to touch on is the categories section. So the categories, the idea of categories is that you can create posts. There are other types of content that you can create as well, such as events, faculty, staff members, things of that nature. You can categorize those items, and then using those categories essentially create silos of this information appearing within your site based on the category value that you are creating for it. So for example, if you go out to our WiscWeb service page, we post all of the news down here when we are making any news updates. But if I create any articles that are specific to the training area, I would categorize them as training, and I would just have them be listed over here. So for example, I'm going to be creating some articles once I've finished recording these videos, and I'm going to post them on our main page and have them appear down here. But also I'm going to tag them, or categorize them, as training, and they will also appear here. So the idea is that you can create some things and have them appear where you want them to appear based on that category setting that you are using on the actual post itself. And again, this is true for events. This is true for faculty staff members. There is some intricacy to those too that if you're interested in learning, I'd really recommend getting in touch with us or coming into an open lab. But they're very useful. They're nice for you to use to sort of differentiate where particular content would appear within your site. So that's how you create posts. Posts are then displayed on actual pages. So I'm just going to publish this. And let's go back over to my pages. And let's go to undergraduate admissions, since that's the one that I have there. And I don't really want this image appearing there, so I'm going to remove this image by clicking on that minus sign. And instead, I'm going to click on Add Page Element and do Post Listing. And so you'll see there are some options here for you to choose from. Again, things that we can talk about in person or in a future video. But if I preview the changes, there is where my posts now get placed using that post listing page element. So again, some further options that you can use here just to be aware of from that standpoint. And that's it for this video. Just talking about content creation, the basics of creating pages and creating posts and how to sort of use those to put that content out there for your audience. We will get into page layouts and not page layouts, but navigation layouts, how to create menus, how to set your home page. We'll talk about those in a future video, but just to make sure that you're aware that those videos will be coming out on hopefully a regular basis to try and give people a little more information about how to use WiscWeb and how to use the UW theme. So I appreciate you watching this video, and again, tune in for our future videos coming soon.